Last season it was a wet one in Canada, and also last week as well in Texas was a race that won't be forgettable for sure. 18 drivers last week. Well, guess what? We've upped it once again, and it's our first full grid in Tier 2 in nearly a full entire season. If not a full entire season itself, it's very, very close to that. Welcome along, folks, for the Canadian Grand Prix. We're at the halfway mark of the season, come halfway through this race. As always, I'm your commentator, Ryan Searles, and for his home Grand Prix, he'll join me for the first time in the commentary box. Welcome along, Minico. Good to have you.
Yeah, it's great to be here, and obviously great to be here for my home race, Canadian Grand Prix. Should be a very exciting one. I mean, we know how this track can be. We've raced here quite a few times, and, well, Tier 2 can always throw up something. If you remember last week, that was an interesting affair. Hopefully we don't get any shenanigans, but, yeah, it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a good thing you got out of the Mercedes Academy when you did, but either way, the rain that came later in the race could come again tonight. We saw Q2, Q3, and the race last season all the way up until lap 33 have rain affect this one. Track limits are also in play as well. You have a lot of chicanes that are tricky for the drivers, either getting it right on the traction or simply keeping it in the white lines. What's going to be the big thing you're looking at here for tonight, whether it's weather or track limits, in terms of qualifying and the race here as we get going?
Definitely track limits. A lot of people struggle with that, not only in qualifying, but also the race itself. You could have somebody with like 15 seconds of penalties. It can be absolutely horrendous. Hopefully, we see that at a minimum, but I mean, we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen, and if it does rain, then we might see less track limits. Who knows?
Well, it looks like qualifying's dry. We'll find out about the race in just a moment. Welcome to the Twitch chat, everybody watching. There's 10 of you now. The race, from what I'm seeing, looks to be a dry event. I'm on JNT Gaming stream, our championship leader still. We'll talk about the championship standings later on, but looks to be a dry race. The only issue that they may end up with is 45 minutes into the race, there's a rain cloud, but there's 5% chance of rain. However, Minico, if we get a lot of safety cars 60 minutes in, 87% chance. So these drivers cannot cause incidents throughout this race. We saw a safety car in last season's event. We saw a safety car in the Season 9 Tier 2 event, 2 seasons prior to that, and we saw one in F1. If we see a lot of those tonight, we could be seeing rain at the end of the Grand Prix from what I'm seeing.
Yeah, but that obviously depends on all the drivers if they could just keep it either out of the barrier or out of each other. And, well, Canada, it's a tight track. You can't. It's going to be hard to avoid said instance, and the only way you can try and get past somebody is on those DRS straights that you see. And even then, you can't even get through all of them with an easy pass, because some of them can't even make it past at some point. So, yeah, it's going to be a bit difficult for the drivers if they, let's say a Ferrari is down the order, and they try and make their way up the field. It's going to be a bit difficult.
All right. Let's go over some headlines before we get to on-track action. We have a lot of headlines to go over, and a lot of things happen midweek that, I mean, I'm probably going to lose some brain cells over with how much had happened. So, Dom, full-time driver here we're on board with right now for just a moment. He is up to F1 Tier 1 in F1 24 in the next Tier 1 season. Ardell will be full-time for Red Bull next game and next season for Tier 2. Invade at Sauber, he also became the Academy Assistant. How about Lando Norris? He was before racing here before in RPL. Not the real Lando Norris, the one who supports Lando Norris. He was in RPL not too long ago. Back in Season 9 and a little bit of Season 10. He is racing full-time for Haas in Season 13 Tier 2. Lajovic will be his teammate. He'll also continue there as well. Lajovic missing tonight. We'll go over loans later on. We also have as well JNT in Sauber in Season 13 Tier 2 instead of Ferrari. He decided to demote himself from that contract. Moved up to Ferrari will be Dil JG, I believe, for the time being. For next season's lineup. SSR William, one of the drivers that Cookie has brought in. Cookie signed a ton of reserves midweek. So flabbergasted I couldn't even say it right. But either way, he signed a lot of them midweek. Got them in. One of them, SSR William. He is a Season 12 Tier 2 reserve, and he'll be full-time in the Tier 2 V-Carb next game. We have also got as well. Oh, well, that was almost contact from Dill JG trying to pick up slipstream. I'll focus on track action in just a second, folks. Rapido and move from the Merc Academy to the Ferrari Academy after last week's race. Multiple new drivers joined, including one of the previous Xbox Challengers drivers, Axe F1. Lots of others to look forward to. Abe is here as one of the other ones. He used to run a NASCAR league a while ago that I was in, back on NASCAR Heat, a famous YouTuber, I'd say, in that NASCAR area. Same with Dill JG in that sense, a famous YouTuber we just figured out midweek. He went second fastest, by the way. And for him, by the way, just to mention something, he's got 20k subscribers on YouTube, so fair play. Invade Ferrari assistant, like we mentioned. George, everyone saw the action with him last week in Tier 2 and a lot of the controversy. Well, he has been hit with a season ban up until the end of Season 13 Tier 2. He'll have a lot more to add on with that. He is also the F2 coordinator for Season 19. That's the plan next game. Zatsy, for tonight's event, he joined the lobby. Sorry, Meriton. Zatsy, he wants to be called Meriton now, so I'm going to refer to Meriton. He has a race ban for tonight's event. Seems to be spectating in the lobby. I don't know if he's been asked to leave or not, but since we have 20 in here, 2 spectating, I recommend he does leave the session. When he does come back next week as a reserve, he'll have a qualifying ban. Make PK has 2 races left of the race ban. Gagi has been removed from the season ban that he had, signed with Ferrari Academy. We have loans to go over. We'll go over them quickly, and then we'll talk about the F124 beta, which you got, Minico. But in terms of our loans and reserve appearances, we will go over them quickly. Ardell, not a reserve or not a loan, but he's here at his home race, and he's returning this week. He did not run last week at all. We've got Instincts, who has not raced since either the start of last season or the end of the season prior. So welcome back, Instincts. It's been a while. He's been on podium in 9 different Tier 2 seasons. Impressive stat right there. We've got GSR Thrasher, who is reserving in Monza, back tonight. Logivic's missing. Valkyrie also missing. That's why Instincts is in. Jack Andrews making, I believe, his debut. He's in AlphaTauri for tonight's event. Redfire Tiger, because of Grandpa missing, got the call up to Red Bull. He'll be racing there. Bino is racing for AlphaTauri as well. That is full-time now. He was a part of the Ferrari Academy prior. Now he joined back the server, getting the contract with AlphaTauri, and has a time, did a lap, but got signed to the reserve spot for Williams very late tonight, so he's supposed to have a qualifying ban. I don't think he was made aware of that, but I'm pretty sure Owen will be making him aware of that in just a few moments' time. Minico, lots of headlines, lots of big things in this event. Took over about half of our session so far. That's how big it was.
If I can bother to unmute myself, there we go. Yeah, as of right now, it's actually a very, very tight session, because right now you got Ardell that's currently leading, as you said, with a 110.326, less than 700 ahead of the Alfa Romeo of Dill JG. So the Alfa Romeo is looking pretty quick, and we've seen this a lot before, where Alfa Romeo can be pretty quick at some just random circuits, mainly high downforce, and I guess maybe this is another one to add to the list. Who knows? But he's putting quite a lot of pace in that Alfa Romeo. There's still quite a few people that have yet to set a time, that being some of the Red Bulls, the Mercedes, and, well, there's still a lot of time left in this session. But, yeah, already very close.
Ardell at his home race. Fair play, being top of the board. Dill JG continuing to outperform the Alfa Romeo. Mintoki as well, points in every round so far this season, up there as well. JNT Gaming, our championship leader, 5th. Other protagonist, JTK, not out on track yet. We'll get to some hot laps with drivers coming out, but Minico, I mentioned something very important on that headline section. F124 beta, you have it, you've played it. What is it like? What can you tell our viewers?
It's definitely quite different, I'll say that much. Traction is very... It's really easy. Like, it is much easier than this game, and I thought this game would have been the best for traction. Well, it's going to be even more so. I'm basically flooring it in second gear in that game. More so on that, there is a lot of setup changes as well. You got such things such as engine braking, which is a new setup change in the transmission side. And while I'm on the topic of transmission, well, that can go down all the way for the differential from 10% to 100%. So you got more of a variety on that like on that front. And then suspension as well being being a bit of a major thing, mainly the ride height, where it's more specific to how high it is off the ground, because now the values are different for both the rear and the front. Other than that, it's a very interesting game, pretty understeery, but they're saying to be working on that. But the game's got potential. I'll say that it's got plenty of potential behind it. They just need to figure out what's going on in terms of in terms of the handling, and then just kind of work from there. So there's quite a few things that are wrong with it, but there's also quite a few things that are right. Ardell, by the way, he's even faster. First man into the nines.
All right, well, we have some laps being started here, and I just saw GSR Thrasher invalidate. I just saw Wavy Knife invalidate. This is going to be so tricky for these drivers, especially where Dom is going through now. You can easily invalidate your this and next lap. Lots of controversy in the F1 sprint qualifying from that with Lando Norris. But now Dom will start a lap. How about we go on board with him as he dumps the battery? Minico, it's your home race. Take us through it.
Okay, thanks, controller. There we go. Anyways, heading through turns 1 and 2, you really have to be easy on the throttle through this section because, well, the rear can really step out on you. Then going through turns 3 and 4, careful not to hit the wall. He actually plays it kind of safe there, but still pretty quick. 19.5 in the first sector. That's pretty competitive. Bit of a slide there, actually, so that's not ideal for the rear tires, but he still managed to keep it valid, which is honestly an accomplishment for this track. Down the back straight. And then heavy on the brakes, 4th gear into another chicane. This track is full of them. And he negotiates it quite nicely once again. Down to the hairpin. It is a 41.8. Not sure if that's a true purple or not. I doubt it. But we'll just have to see. Running through the hairpin nicely on the throttle. No signs of wheel spin whatsoever. Down that back straight. What is the Haas going to lay down his first lap? We'll see if it's anywhere near the top 5. His teammate is on a lap as well, so we'll see what he does in comparison later on. But Dom, gonna come across the line, goes out to 2nd. Wow.
The Ferrari Academy has 3 different cars in their top 3 right now. And I apologize, folks, for missing Ardell's pole lap, but we'll get to our drivers trying to go for pole right after. J&T Gaming smashes it out of the park. Your championship leader is fully locked in for this event. He mentioned a chance yesterday or the day prior of maybe not making this event due to some personal reasons. Right now, though, he's locked in. He's on pole 1-2.
Yeah, and he's been talking a lot recently about kind of the pressure kind of getting to him and a bit of I'm not sure exactly what he said, but like the pressure is kind of getting to him, and it's kind of like that made him reconsider his contract actually for next season. But in terms of right now, although this pressure may be on him, he doesn't seem to be showing it right now. On pole once again. He was at pole in Coda last week, if I'm not mistaken. So
2 weeks.
Can you make it back to back? Really? Okay.
Yeah, Monza
so
and
3 in a row.
Coda. Yeah.
That is very impressive from the Ferrari. We know that Ferrari can be very good in qualifying, but to easily outpace the Red Bulls and be on that, be consistent in terms of their qualifying position, that's pretty impressive.
We're going to go on board with JTK now. The Ferraris being 1-2, by the way, I just want to make a note of it. Not the first time they've been 1-2 in qualifying in Tier 2. It happened in Season 7 when they were both in the front row. That front row 1-2 spot decided by 1,000th between NRX Flynn and Instincts. Third place was only 200ths back. That's how close qualifying can get in Canada. But how close can JTK, the other protagonist, get to J&T, the championship leader, only 9th. But the similar thing with J&T and JTK is that they're right next to their teammate. So at least that's a positive for them. We're now on board with Hunted, heading to the hairpin. This can be very tricky. You can easily get that wrong with the rear locking. We saw it in the Season 11 running of this race last season. We also saw it in Season 10 F1 most recently as well. Can be very tricky on the front lockups. DRS down this straight. We might be seeing some slipstreams later on in the session if anyone is that desperate to get that high up on the grid. Joe Wilson 5th. That's higher on the grid. Hunted now applies DRS and has a run to the line now. Others improving. Hunted, though, improving to 3rd fastest. So last week missing Texas and having the point streak come to an end due to being in the hospital, but now trying to pull off what Carlos Sainz pulled off. He can easily do that being 3rd.
You read my mind with the whole Carlos Sainz thing. I was just about to say that. Yeah, he is still very much on the pace, and he's over a tenth ahead of his teammate. McLaren look pretty strong. They're looking strong, third and fourth, comfortably ahead of the likes of Mercedes and Ferrari. So maybe this is their chance to potentially bounce back in the Constructors' Championship. They're down in fourth. They've not had the best. Maybe this is the time. Maybe this is the turnaround for the Woking-based team. But we'll have to see come the race. But in qualifying, looking great.
Oh,
Haza
yeah.
disqualifies. That's the quali ban. There we go.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, he had to serve that. He did it correctly. If, you know, since he said a lap. So that's my bad. I reacted a little too much to that. Jack Andrews set a lap 16th fastest for AlphaTauri. Not one of the best laps, but you look at where his teammate's at, 8th place. You can see the difference right there between both AlphaTauris currently. A lot of guys outperforming their car. You got Dom, who does it weekly. Dul JG in his second start. You got points last week on debut. Bino obviously in. And lots to still come here. We got Bonkers coming through the chicane. Well, there's like millions of them, as you said, Minico, but it's hard to pick out which one's which at times. Now he's coming through after the back straight. And right there, that detection point he's going through right now. Watch this in the race. You will have double DRS here. After this hairpin, DRS enabled twice. Right here, and then out of the Wall of Champions chicane. You have to make note of that when you're making overtakes for tonight's event. Will be massive for sure as he's on his lap, trying to get the lap in. And trying to help Red Bull out. We've had 4 different changes in the championship lead in the first 5 races. Can we see a 5th in the 6 races? Bonkers coming across the line now. It will be 11th. Wow.
Yeah, Red Bull, they're having a bit of a shocker right now. 10th and 11th, and that car can be very, very good at a track like this. So for them to be this down low, I'm a bit surprised, especially after the turn of form we saw from Red Fire, because he was up in the top 3 in Coda last week. So this is a very interesting situation here for what is pretty easily the best car on the grid. They're looking like the 5th best car on the grid.
Mythic betters his time, but he's not improving any places. Dil JG is up by 24 thousandths. Let's see what the Alfa Romeo driver can do. He keeps it off of the walls right there, and he goes 4th fastest. So once again, continuing to outperform his car. This is impressive. I'm loving it.
You could say that for the entirety of the Ferrari Academy. You got a Ferrari 1-2, Alfa Romeo 4th, a Haas in 6th. You got 4 out of your 6 cars in the top 10. There's nothing more to say about it. It's actually insane how good these cars are around here.
I mean, GSR Thrasher, of course, I've raced with him for years. I don't expect him to be up there in that top 10, but as long as he does better than Monza by getting no penalties, he can be in it with a shot at points like Lojovic was after the late race safety car last week. Like I said, here comes the first of the slipstreams. Mintoki's getting it from the Williams teammate. Invade as well also has scored points here in the 2 races that have been run in this game cycle. He qualified really well last season too, and the season prior to that, Mintoki improves up to 6. So this qualifying session continues to be close from the front of the field. I'm now going to go on board with JNT Gaming, our pole sitter, the last 2 weeks, trying to defend pole position, and he's up by 23 thousandths already.
Yeah, there still could be a lot of time found in the rest of this lap, because Sector 2, you can find a bunch of time. The final chicane as well, depending on how you hit it. And, well, it looks very, very smooth there from the Ferrari. Getting a bit of a cheeky toe there from the Alpine. Does that gain him anything? No, he's actually down. He's lost time in Sector 2.
That can be a big difference maker for the Ferrari driver. He's got Ardell, his teammate, with his home race that he is battling for pole position. Yes, short qualifying, as noted in the chat. And we've got less than a minute remaining. It's now crunch time. Get your laps in now and get your predictions in the chat now. JNT Gaming crosses the line, and right now, it's 3 in a row. Provisional pole. Ardell is down in the first sector, so this could be it for him. Hunted's invalidated. He needs to get this lap in that he's going to try to start. Tadpole's up. He's had a podium before here in an Alpine. Won this race last season. Mintoki down, not going to get to the checkered flag in time. But Hunted will get to the checkered flag to start a lap. Checkered flag waving for Dill JG. Tadpole down. Both Red Bulls have hit the checker flag, and the guys who are third in the championship, 7 points back from the leaders, they're only going to start a best of 10th and 11th, so this is going to be big for our qualifying session. The Alpine as well, that's either Kippo or Instincts. Instincts improves. Next up is the Ferrari of Ardell. He couldn't do it. He invalidated. Hunted's down. Tadpole across the line, and Tadpole goes to the front row.
That's a very good lap from Tadpole, but it's not enough. I don't think anybody has an answer to JNT to get his third in a row. Like, nobody seems to have it. Dom is done. He's retired in the
JTK's
session.
up, but invalidated. That's big for our guy second in the championship. Sorry to cut him, Minico, but he's going to be only a best of 13th. Kippo invalidated. Joe Wilson, only 2/10 up. Joe Wilson and Hunted are the only two who can say something about the current pole position. Joe Wilson crosses the line to only go fourth. Hunted down by 6 thousandths. And this man, last week, was not racing. But this has been a kind track to him last season. Only fourth. Ferrari McLaren. J&T Gaming makes it 3 pole positions in a row. And still yet to get the first victory that he's had. J&T Gaming on pole position here in Canada. 3 in a row. He got his home race last week. And this one, the track he seems to be closer to compared to Coda, and Canada gets pole number 4 all time. He sets himself into the top 12 on that list.
Yeah, JNT proving that he wants to give it absolutely everything for this championship. I'm just surprised by Red Bull. Like, where's the pace from those guys? They're 9/10 off of the Ferrari, and well, to be fair to the 2 Red Bulls, they are 2,000 separated between each other, but the fact that they're this far off in the fastest car, it's absolutely shocking. They're outqualified by AlphaTauri.
Keeps having controller problems. As for Bunkers, he took about halfway through the session to rejoin it because Merton was in the way of him. We have J&T Gaming on pole. Tadpole as well on the front row. Really good from him. Ardell, Hunted, and Joe Wilson are out the top 5. Dill JG, Mintoki, Dom, and Bino. Some really good drivers outperforming their cars. You have Hazatime who will have to serve the qualifying ban. Did just that. Thrasher leaves the session. And lots of things to look forward to in this race. Mercedes didn't even have the best qualifying either. They have Joe Wilson 5th, but their better driver, I would say, their number 1 driver, JTK, second in the championship, he was only 13th.
Yeah, that is absolutely surprising there for JTK. He's usually been the more consistent and the faster driver of the 2 Mercedes. And while he's won 2 races in the past 3, so this is a bit of a shocker here from JTK. But maybe this is just what we were expecting. Track limits just getting the better of him. And with that he's getting a lot of invalidations. Maybe that could be the case. So we're going to have to watch out for that. We're also going to have to watch out for other cars that are further down the order. Like we mentioned, the 2 Red Bulls down in 10th, 11th. Surely they have to make their way up as well. There's just, this grid is a lot more mixed than it actually looks. The top 5 are as is, but 6th on down, it's almost like an equal league by the looks of it.
I know. It's so insane the guys that perform in their car right now at the current moment. 21 of you watching, get your predictions in for the race. We will go over the strategy and everything else on the formation lap that we have this week for the 2nd week running. Formation lap seems to be working much, much better. And with that said, Ardell at a home race, he's got a lot of hope as well. Let's go over a few things. GSR Thrasher has noted in the Twitch chat, an emergency came up. He will not be able to partake in this event. Due to that, he starts 19th. The whole field going for either what looks to be medium or hard tires. No one going to take a gamble and go on the softs. I really doubted that was going to be the case anyways, considering rain was supposed to come at the end of this event. And maybe not even in this event if it runs fast enough without any safety cars or virtual safety cars. In terms of what tire these guys are going to be going in terms of their strategy, medium hard, hard medium. Is medium soft a possibility? It is. It's more likely to be done medium soft than soft medium. And our championship standings. Why do we mention Mercedes being 13th and 15th, or sorry, 13th and 5th so much here? just a moment ago. They lead the constructors by 6 points over Ferrari, who start 1 and 3. Red Bull are 7 points back. They start 10th and 11th. And McLaren still has a chance as well. They're the only team in that top 4 race that can take the championship lead tonight that has not led the championship in the first few opening rounds. They're 34 points back, but they start 2nd and 4th. They've got a really good chance tonight. So, JNT leads the championship by 8 points. He's on pole for a 3rd straight week. He's got 8 podiums before a first race win. The only other drivers who come close to that in Tier 2 would have been Instincts and Beatnik, who've won races. JNT Gaming is the 9th time going to be the charm on podium tonight as a race victor. He leads the championship over JTK by 8 points. JTK starts 13th. Grandpa not in 3rd in the championship, but Hunted is 33 points back in the championship, excuse me. He's got a big haul of points he can take.
Yeah, this track is definitely going to put up a bit of a spice, that's for sure, in terms of the championship. We don't know how it's going to end. We don't even know how this thing is going to start, but right now everybody's just going to start lining up. A couple disqualifications here and there, but not a lot of people as we get ready.
The 5 red lights come on to start the Canadian Grand Prix in Season 12, Tier 2. 5 red lights, and they're out and away. Tadpole is going to get a better start than JNT. Side by side off the line. Both Ferraris and both McLarens side by side off the line. Into turn 2. Tadpole having the inside line. Banging wheels with JNT. JNT Gaming almost gets shoved out to the grass, and he's now 3 wide. And for the 2nd time in the 2nd week running, JNT Gaming has been put from 1st to a lower position, and they all seem to get clean through turn 4. That chicane there, that's so tricky. Both Red Bulls up spots. Now side by side, I think Matoki just got the up and under on Joe Wilson. Now Redfire and Dom banging, and a big collision further on back. Dill JG's lost multiple places.
Okay, again with
Bonkers
my anyways, they were sorry for the mute there.
You're good. Don't worry. Bonkers is going to send it on Dom, trying to go on the inside. Now finally going to try to get through. Further on back, they're all messing about for 12th place. It's all getting very tricky as they get to the hairpin.
Yeah, there was a bit of a spinner, as you said, further back, Dill G. It looked like he just got tapped by one of, I think it might have been one of the Alpines further back. We'll have to see later on in Stewart's reports by the looks of it. But either way, yeah, the front pack, Tadpole getting a better jump. Maybe that's just the McLaren rear downforce.
Here we go!
And though here comes JNT, he's going to look for it on the inside. And he's going to shove Tadpole off, not fully off. Tadpole still keeps his nose in. He's going to hold on to that lead still. But Hunted and Ardell right behind go at it. And Hunted looks to have the better of Ardell, and he has.
JNT Gaming criticized heavily for not going for a move on the last lap on JTK last week for the race victory when the door was open. This week when the door was open, he went for a move on Tadpole. This one was not successful, but he at least found a way to be less submissive with his overtaking. I think that's much needed if he's going to try to get a first win tonight, Minico.
Yeah, it definitely will be, but he's going to have to be wary of his tires as well. We know how the Ferrari is with their tire wear. It's the worst on the grid. Ardell looking for a move down the inside, right behind JNT, and he's going to get the move done. No, he doesn't. Hunted with the better rear downforce and rear traction, and he manages to stay ahead. Ardell using all of his battery to try and get in front. He just can't do it.
That is so interesting. Ardell trying for a first podium at his home race here in Canada, trying to become the 2nd new podium sitter in Tier 2 on the podium. Redfire was last week. Now here comes Ardell and Joe Wilson duking it out. Joe Wilson could not get the better of him. Everybody in the front of the field, in a DRS train all the way to 12th. JTK back there, that is not good for him. He couldn't gain any spots in the start. We now look at our spots gained. 3 spots for Redfire, 3 spots for Bonkers, 4 for Kipu. He's one of the biggest winners on lap 1, and obviously the big loser coming from the guy who got tapped around there in the midfield, Dill JG.
Yeah, but he's not far off the pack, luckily, so Dill JG will still be able to try and make his way up the field, but the Alfa Romeo not that great in the race stint. We'll have to see. Yeah, JTK not exactly having the most lightning of starts, but he's made up 1 position, and he is on the hard tires, so he's looking to go long on his strategy. Same with the Red Bull of Redfire. He's also on the hards as well, looking to go long, and, well, luckily for both Red Bulls, it seems as if their quality pace doesn't really matter because they're already up to 7th and 8th and on the back of this train. Meanwhile, J&T, he's gone for it for the lead, and he's taken it.
I'm so sorry to miss that, folks. We had a midfield battle going on that I was trying to pay attention to as well, but J&T Gaming put on the battery at the right time, and now I think Joe Wilson's trying to do the same. Joe Wilson for 4th place gets the move done. How about that from him? So a Ferrari getting overtaken, and then a Ferrari doing the overtake for the race lead. Here's the difference with what J&T Gaming did. Last week, he waited to catch back up to Red Fire, who overtook him on the start. This time, Tadpole overtook him on the start. He just muscled past him.
Yeah, I think he needed to do that in order to try and go and extend his championship lead and try and get that first win. And he's building a bit of a gap, to be fair, but it's very hard to pull out a DRS because you got 3 DRS zones around this track. And as long as you just don't get any form of wheel spin and have competitive cornering speeds, you're going to be able to stay with the car in front. That's exactly what Tadpole's doing. He may not have the straight line speed, but he's got the cornering and the rear traction to just stay on the back of J&T, and he's going to have DRS down this back straight once again. Hunted is right behind him as well, so McLaren could try a bit of a double attack on J&T if they get close enough, but on the run to the final chicane, nothing doing. Does he go for it into turn 1, though?
I think you're going to be disappointed in your fellow Canadian there, Ardell, having absolutely no battery and about to get trounced by Mintoki for P6. You know, I messed it up before in Imola during her first race. It had to happen when you were here, of course, now.
Of course, yeah, it had to. To be fair,
Oopsies.
I've driven an Aston Martin before, so I mean, it's not dissimilar. Bonkers, first man in the penalty box, 3 seconds.
This was going to be the big question entering tonight. Who is going to be the first one to get into the penalty club? It's Bonkers for Red Bull running 8th place, and Tadpole trying to use ERS to stay in DRS still come this back straight once again. Interesting notes here from previous races. All but 3 people in the Tier 1 running of this race ended the race with track limit penalties, and in the Season 9 Tier 2 event 3 seasons ago, all but 1 driver ended this race without a penalty. Last season's race, which was in the wet, not as representative, 9 of 16 drivers ended up with penalties in the race that finished. So very crucial to not have a penalty in this race. 5 laps in, we're only lucky, I think, to have 1 of these drivers having a penalty.
Yeah, admittedly a lot less than I anticipated, that's for sure. I expected at least 4 or 5 people to have at least 1, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Right now, everything's just kind of at a stalemate point. You got first all the way down to 9th within a whole DRS train, which fair play to Dom, by the way. He may not have a car good enough for the points bank positions, but he is very much sticking on the back of these guys. Slowly starting to fall away, though. Maybe the horsepower is starting to kick in, but he's still there. And yeah, everybody's just in this DRS train, not close enough to make a move, but just enough to stick within that DRS and keep this pack close together.
I mean, I'm really surprised, though. Everybody is really remaining in a DRS train, and no one's really making the overtakes. I think in the Tier 1 running of this race, and even when it was Season 9 Tier 2, when it was the dry race a few seasons ago, even when we saw these DRS trains, we saw lots of moves being made, and I'm really shocked here to see JTK still down in 12th, and Invade is right all over the back of him, giving a few taps now.
Maybe it's a comfort thing with this track. I highly doubt he has any damage or anything, but yeah, JTK really struggling at this stage. As meanwhile, Mintoki getting ahead.
Ardell lost it off of the final chicane and now has lost 2 spots due to that misfunction that he had there. Ardell at the Wall of Champions corner didn't hit any walls, but ended up sliding in the process. That cost him 2 places, and it might cost Mintoki DRS to Joe Wilson, the Academy teammate. One thing to note on JTK, by the way, Minico, if he doesn't score points, there's a good chance Hunted could get a lot closer in the championship, and this will help J&T Gaming, even if he doesn't win the race, take a big haul of points, and here comes Joe Wilson now.
Yeah, he's going for it into the second to last chicane, you could say, and yeah, easily into third, but however, the front 2 seem to have broken away from the rest of the pack, because Joe Wilson is not within that DRS, and now everybody's starting to split apart more often, and now this can entice some overtakes at this point, because now Hunt got DRS on Joe Wilson, and Joe Wilson, he can do nothing about it. That Mercedes dragging in a straight line, it's going to be hard to put up a fight.
Not going to go for the move this time, Hunted, but he will probably next time on the run toward turn 1. Bino as well, Indiras of Kipu. We've got multiple trains. Bino's now actually making the move before the chicane, and Kipu has to back out. Hunted as well, also side by side with Mintoki. They're banging wheels there at turn 1 into 2. Mythic the second one on the penalty box, and now Mintoki actually through for 4th place. So Aston Martin, once again, they have had this happen with Owen in Tier 1. Trying to get close to the podium. Now it's with Mintoki and Redfire Tiger, the 3rd different driver to get to the penalty box. This is absolutely crazy with the drivers picking up track limit penalties as the cloud cover becomes more of an issue over the track. And one other thing to mention, folks, just as a reminder, as we do every week, the next Tier 2 race is in Mexico, and then we go to the Middle East stretch in the 4 races to end off the season. Will be big if JNT Gaming can get a lead before then, a big lead at that. And Instincts, the 4th driver in the penalty box. That's 3 guys in 1 lap.
Yeah, now the penalties are definitely starting to come in at this stage of the race. It's usually within the first 10 laps, not as common, and then eventually it's starting to pick up. And when Mintoki got past Hunted, Hunted had a huge slide coming out of the final chicane, and that just allowed Mintoki to have a run and get ahead of that McLaren. However, it's going to be hard to try and fight against that McLaren. But then again, Mintoki, known for her consistency and being able to just have the car do what she wants, and, well, she's able to stay ahead of that McLaren. Bino now with the 3 seconds.
We're about to get 4 wide for a moment. Hold on. This could get very hairy. Luckily, it's only 2 by 2, and now JTK got swarmed by Invade and almost got tagged by an Academy teammate. However, his Academy teammate and team principal, Wavy, goes through. Redfire Tiger's lagged out, and Mythic's through on Instincts. What a big battle in the midfield. That's what I was hoping to see at some point there happen, and it finally has happened. Ardell about to overtake the lagged out car.
Yeah, that is not good for Redfire Tiger. Hopefully he gets in as soon as possible. I'm actually just going to send him an invite real quick. But yeah, that's not
if you could do that, that'd be great.
As if Red Bull needed more drama. First, they're the only ones in the top 8 with a 3-second time penalty. And then just to add insult to injury, Redfire, he's just going to fall off the pack. And Bonkers now gets ahead of him.
Not only is it troubling for Red Bull, but I've just received word that JTK is in this race without a setup. That is why JTK is having issues. So very, very unfortunate for the driver trying to take the championship lead, and will definitely not do it tonight based on pace. Dom getting red fire. And now Mythic and Instincts having a nice little battle to the final chicane. Instincts cuts him off. Was that moving under braking? The stewards will definitely have a say if Mythic wants them to have a say, and now Mythic is trying to get this place back, but cannot do it. Instincts in his return, definitely not up there on pace, but at least having some nice battles in the process. That's very nice to see from the driver who has taken podium in 9 straight seasons. In fact, I think Haas would like to hear this. He's the last podium sitter for their team in Tier 2.
Hopefully that gives Dom a bit of encouragement, and, well, he definitely seems to be pretty encouraging. Oh, that's someone going off the track. Ardell goes off the track, and he gets a 3-second.
Driver mistake. Driver error. That penalty will not be removed. Maybe reduced, but not removed. And now we have a virtual safety car. We've got a driver on the track with a missing front wing, probably, to cause this. I think it's Dill JG, adding insult to injury. The worst thing possible here under the VSC is getting a speeding penalty heading into the pits. You have to get it under the delta, and you have to be extra careful with this because this track can provide a lot of glitches heading into the pit lane. These drivers are taking advantage now. McLaren with a double stack.
Now this is very interesting because you see a lot of people going into the pits. It's interesting that JNT didn't take that. The Ferrari with the worst tire wear electing to stay out. Same with Dom as well. Dom also electing to stay out. So that's very interesting what their strategy is at this point. Maybe they think later on their tires will be much better and they'll just be able to easily catch up. Might be the plan for them. JNT, we know he has the pace. He definitely has the pace. He's been leading this race ever since he took it back. But this is a very interesting strategy here from Ferrari. Not exactly a Ferrari strategy in real life, but it's an interesting one.
Redfire Tiger, bravo, gets the move done right at the start of the VSC restart, and he fell off a lot on tire wear. at the end of last week's race. You're talking about drivers pitting. Well, that's something I want to know. Last week's race, Red Fire Tiger was leading the majority of it and the beginning, and then fell off from the tire wear. You can't have that happen. But all these guys pitting seem to be going to the hard tires, though, before the rain period will come.
So maybe thinking that the rain is going to come in during the race. We said it was going to be late on, but that depends on safety cars. You've only had a virtual at this point, so yeah, it's a very interesting call. Not a bad call. Meanwhile, Joe Wilson easily clearing Bino before the chicane, and he moves up into 6th.
You got to do it wisely. Joe Wilson's doing that. Now Ardell's trying to do that, picking his way through, and now this is 7th place. It's interesting, you know, watching Ardell try to cut off Bino right there at turn 1, because in the Tier 2 race that I commentated the first time here in Season 9, Grandpa and Valkyrie had a collision there at turn 1. Was it Grandpa cutting across? Was it Valkyrie hooking Grandpa? I don't know, but you have to be very careful when cutting across like that, because that can happen. And that did actually cause a VSC or a safety car in that race. So very interesting that even a broken front wing like Dill JG had can cause that kind of stuff. Wavy knife with a penalty, and here comes Hunted.
Hunted electing to not go for the move, interestingly. So he's electing to stay behind. Bonkers with another 3 second. That's now added up to 6 for him. That's not what he needs at all. Hunted's going to try go for around the outside of the hairpin. Bino breaks really late, goes really deep, and Hunted's going to get the switchback, and this should be an easy overtake, and it is. Hunted up into 8th, and now Bonkers is on the back of Bino. He's going to try and make the move, but a bit of a blocking there from Bino.
Oh, Barrett, bad camera angle for that one, folks. I'm sorry. I was also going to mention as well, Ardell in the 3-second penalty club. That's not good. Wavy gets invaded, and those cause of yellow flags that you saw momentarily ago was for JTK. Ardell, dive bomb down the inside. Now, pinching at turn 1 into 2, and Ardell with the outside line. Can he out-traction Joe Wilson? They're going to be side by side here into the next chicane. Joe Wilson has to back out, and he concedes the place. JTK is into the pit lane, repairing his front wing and onto the medium tires, so his trouble will continue once again.
Yeah, the man, P2 in the championship as of right now, he is just having an absolutely terrible time. He's going to need an awful lot of luck to go his way if he wants to salvage anything out of this race at this point, because he is, by the time everybody pits, he's not even going to be in the points still. So this is, this is not what you want to see for JTK.
So to finish off the season in Tier 2, we've got Mexico to finish off the U.S. region of stretch of races. After that, we've got the Middle East with Bahrain, Abu Dhabi, a return to China, I believe, as well, and Japan to end off the season. All these races that will end off the season will be critical races in the championship, and JTK is having one of those races that is very critical for JNT to maximize the points on. Joe Wilson is getting the upper edge now on Ardell, and now Bonkers just closing in. Can he get there? No, he can't, but that penalty will be extremely costly.
Yeah, definitely will. Same with Ardell as well. They're both on 6 seconds at this stage. They're the only two with more than 3 seconds for penalties. So yeah, it's absolutely going to cost them. While Hunted has closed in onto the back of Ardell and Joe Wilson, and he's gotten DRS. That is crucial for Hunted, so he can keep Bonkers at bay, who I think just made a mistake there. I think he's still okay, though.
If you don't mind me cutting in, I forgot to mention this during the formation lap, but the pit stop loss here is 17 seconds, and your ERS gain back is 14%. Tadpole's already got the gap down a lot to where McLaren really undercutting J&T here, so J&T could be put in a very vulnerable position unless there's a safety car, but Dill JG gets the overtake done on Jack Andrews, who's underfueled massively, so he's hoping for a safety car. Now Ardell is on the back of Joe Wilson, gaining, and about to go for the move, but can't.
Yeah, Ardell being pretty smart at that stage, he realized it was way too late to try and potentially make a move. And he's not going to be able to make a move into turn 1, so he's going to stay behind. Yeah, Ardell, he just seems to be struggling potentially with the rear end, which seems to be a bit of a weakness here for Ferrari. Their rear end just doesn't seem to be sticking to the track, and that could be why he's struggling at this stage. He's lucky he's got DRS. He's able to stick onto the back of Joe Wilson, but yeah, the Canadian man, the home man, is struggling a little bit, but to be fair, it could be worse.
It really could be, and you know, you had a DNF here in the most recent Tier 1 race that was ran here. you're right. It could be. So you know it from experience. I know I wouldn't
Yeah.
want to remind you, but that's true.
I mean, Canada's never really been nice to me. I've only had like one podium in all of my time at Canada, so yeah, it's not been
I
the
used
best of
to
tracks for me.
I used to love this track back on 2017, 18, and 19, but since then it's not been as fun. Ardell, though, is trying to go for some more fun. How about 6th place in the cards? J&T Gaming is finally in and will be overtaken for the net race lead when things do cycle out, but Hunted is in the penalty box.
Now that's absolutely crucial, and now Joe Wilson is basically scot-free as long as he keeps it within track limits. But yeah, J&T electing to pit now. This should slot him in ahead of Wavy, but he's going to be behind Bino. And we saw how Bino was with his defending, so it's not going to be easy to get ahead of that AlphaTauri. But J&T,
Joe Wilson?
he's got a lot of time to catch up.
He was trying to go side by side there at the start of Sector 2, and that could have been treacherous. I'm sorry to cut in, but Ardell is now picking up DRS from Dom. Mintoki, Red Fire, Dom, they've yet to pit. However, our net race leader when things will cycle out will be Tadpole. So Tadpole could be taking another Canadian Grand Prix. And now Dom, I think, trying to back off and let Ardell go and now do the defending here. This battling can be very big to catch J&T up, but Ardell and Dom, how will they play a big factor for our championship leader J&T Gaming as he tries to gain spots? You got Joe Wilson going through. Hunted looks to do the same. I think Dom will probably let him through, but it will be Bonkers that has the trickier spot here. And Dom goes into the pit lane almost with Bonkers careering into the back of him. Here's Hunted now. On Joe Wilson, can't get close enough. Was gaining though.
Yeah.
Oh!
Oh, big ball!
Ardell! A little bit of a concertina effect. It spun him around. Hunted just plowed through Joe Wilson and got the both of them. What happened there at turn 2? That was absolutely treacherous.
Yeah, I just missed that. I don't know. I have no idea what happened there. We could potentially see that as you could say, a push to pass. Maybe from one of the drivers. We'll have to see later on. But yeah, that's a bit of a mess there. But that now leaves Hunted in 4th. Joe Wilson now in 5th. Ardell losing 2 spots because of that. He's an absolute screwed over because of it.
Aston Martin leading the race. That's because Mintoki's yet to pit. Same with Wavy, same with Invade, same with Instincts, Mythic, and Red Fire Tiger. We'll see when they choose to come in. Tadpole, though, is on the back of Red Fire Tiger. Is Red Fire Tiger going to put up the fight? Tadpole goes around and will go through and is trying to win another Canadian Grand Prix. As for Tadpole, he's got 6 wins in Tier 2, trying to make it another, and now at the final chicane, it's the Mercedes of Joe Wilson who has to go off, and he has to contest the place due to it, but Ardell picks up a penalty in the process out of the pit lane for the first time on his first lap. Dom gets an overtake down on Mythic. I don't think Mythic's going to have a go back at it, but Dom is ahead, and with a fully charged battery. I'm going to quickly go AFK, but I just want to mention before I do quickly, as we focus on the battle once again for 4th place, we're halfway through the season now with this lap being done.
Time has really flown by, hasn't it? But yeah, they're already halfway through the season, but there's still quite a long ways to go for it. Still, a lot of things can happen. I was able to catch what happened on the back straight before the chicane. Ardell went for a bit of a bold move on Joe Wilson, whereas Joe Wilson decided to sit behind Hunted. That allowed Ardell to get ahead, but he cut the chicane in order to do so, and Joe Wilson, well, he had to go off the track. He rejoined very safely, to be fair, to the Mercedes, so yeah, good on him to avoid that, but bit of a mess, I'll say that. Either way, though, Hunted still stays in front, and Bonkers, actually. Bonkers now getting ahead of Ardell there before the chicane. That is crucial for his race, because now, at this point, he is a net P3, as further up, actually, Tadpole, going around the outside of Mintoki, looks to be taking the lead at this stage, and Tadpole has done it? Yes, he has.
Yes. Invade is in. Looks like I came back at the perfect time. J&T Gaming, though, with this battling for what is now 4th place, catching up. And these guys, because the battling for a little bit with Mintoki and Red Fire, also catching up to the cars in front of them. All J&T Gaming here has to do is just run fast laps and continue to catch the pack. Has a time with a 3-second time penalty. And I know I'm kind of the king of jinxes here as of recent. I know Titans pointed that out to me a lot, but we've ran this race safety car free, 1 VSC, rain coming toward the end. I know GSR Thrasher had to leave due to an emergency early. I'm sure he'll be hit with a DNS, but realistically here, no DNF so far this race, just the 1 VSC. I know JTK picked damage and Dill JG got spun around, but a really clean race nonetheless in comparison to Texas, which had 20 tickets submitted. And Mintoki Speeds, the other one who is a hazard in Texas, was Wavy and his teammate George, and Wavy just got overtaken.
Yeah, he did. Kipu getting the best of Wavy. Obviously, the Alpine very good in the straight line. Yeah, Mintoki elected to go medium soft. It's doable, like you said, during the formation lap. So clearly, she's trying to go aggressive at this stage. As to whether she'll catch up, unsure, but she's definitely at this stage going to finish top 7. And I've been looking at the gaps between Tadpole and JNT. JNT, by the way, he has 5 lap pressure hards in comparison to everybody in front of him. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe he caught up on the previous lap by around a second and a half. So JNT, he's flying.
He really is, but what will matter when the rain is supposed to come in the last few laps, like it did in Texas? Will it be the track position that Tadpole and Hunted have? Or will it be the faster, fresher tires that Ferrari rarely ever have? Here we go. Moves being made. Bonkers ducking out. Behind that, Joe Wilson pressurizing Ardell. Ardell could really play a big favor, though, here for JNT. Because right now, when JNT Gaming does catch up to this pack, he's on the podium based on penalties.
Yeah, the thing is, I think he wants to best that and at least go P2 because Joe Wilson, he is on the back of this train. He doesn't have a penalty. But that being said, JNT is catching, as we mentioned. So he probably wants to get at least P2, which would just be another step off the top spot. How many times has he finished P2 at this stage? I mean, he's a championship leader, so he's doing what he needs to. But that win just seems to elude him, unless something happens to Tadpole, in which at this stage, Tadpole's been pretty consistent.
He had a podium here in Season 9, Tier 2 for Alpine. He had a really good race then. And he has had a previous win here coming last season in the race. It was him versus Lennon versus Owen for that top 3. And it was Tadpole who decided to go with the better strategy. When the rain decided to die down, he didn't choose to go to soft tires. He chose to keep the track position, and that's what mattered, because when it got dry enough for soft tires, it was a little too late. Now we got Red Fire Tiger on the back of Mintoki. I saw Dom and Kipu battling a lock up there at the hairpin, costing one of them. And now Red Fire Tiger ducking out, barely any battery, but getting the move done before the chicane, which can be treacherous for a driver. Both drivers into that chicane, wiggling, trying to keep it off the wall of champions. It can be so tough for a driver there. The Red Fire Tiger running some fast laps, taking the fastest lap of this race. Even though he has the penalty, I'm pretty sure if he can put these fast laps in, once again, in comparison to a bad qualifying, he can definitely go challenge late in this race, if things go his way, that top 2 to top 5 battle right up there, and at least get in the way of whatever Hunted or Bonkers or Ardell has planned, and he has planned another penalty. Let's give you a look at the penalties then.
12 seconds for Ardell. 12 seconds. That's more than double. That's double the next person being Bonkers, who has 6. So Ardell, at his home race, just not able to keep it within the track limits, and he's probably punching the air right now thinking, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing that keeps me getting all these track limit penalties? Speaking of track limit penalties, Dill JG with another 3 seconds. Actually, that's his only 3 second. But either way, the penalties are just insane.
RP2, man. Hunted is edging closer to Tadpole. 1.7 seconds was the gap for just a split second. Mintoki takes over the fastest lap while running in front of Red Fire Tiger, and I thought I just saw about 3 different guys right there pick up penalties. You had Dom, you had Red Fire, you have yellow flags. That's for Jack Andrews, who's going to go a lap down, and he underfueled the car before the race. That will surely cost him. I was thinking maybe it would give Tadpole DRS, but it didn't. Instincts with a penalty. And as that gap does close down for Tadpole, you gotta wonder, is he doing that on purpose to catch up Hunted, or is he genuinely losing pace? And if he does, can JNT and Joe Wilson get there?
Well, it's definitely C. Yeah, JNT is closing in. Joe Wilson's just sticking on the back of these guys, but yeah, maybe Tadpole just doesn't quite have the pace, because it's not been like one lap he's been way faster, but then previous lap he's way slower. It's been a consistent gradual downslide. Joe Wilson getting ahead of Ardell. That's crucial for him, as Bonkers catches another 3 second. In the meanwhile, Ardell's going to try and go at it once again. There's a yellow flag back further back. That's for Jack Andrews. Nothing doing about that. Ardell thinking about it. No, stays behind. Definitely had a look.
He wanted to make the door get open, and it wasn't going to be opened anytime soon. Joe Wilson leapfrogging himself up to P4. That's very good if he wants to fight for this race victory. Jack Andrews retires in the pit lane, I think.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yes. Well, that's our first driver we've lost. Either way, JNT Gaming is about to get DRS here, and if he can have his teammate Ardell battle Joe Wilson right here, right up in front of that, that's going to make JNT Gaming's life a little bit easier here to try to go for the race victory. But I think this might be a better chance than Texas, though, because you could see Hunted just closing that gap down 1.3, and Ardell tapped the back of Joe Wilson. That will hinder JNT's progress if Ardell doesn't let him by, but now overtake button being used from Ardell, no battery in line, but JNT Gaming, the teammate on the back, being let through.
Yeah.
Yes. I was just going to say, better chance compared to Texas, because look at the gap now, under a second. Red fires through.
And it's crucial. If Tadpole gets a 3 second, Tadpole's now been caught up by this pack. Hunted is now within DRS of Tadpole. If Tadpole gets a 3 second, JNT is within that window now. This is absolutely crucial. JNT is back in this fight. Don't count him out for the win. He's still there.
You got 3 guys in that top 5, top 6 battle without track limit penalties. Ardell really costed himself making contact there with Joe Wilson. That could see the steward's office, but even if it does, he's not on for a podium. These penalties are just so costly, especially him having the worst of them, 12 seconds.
Yeah, which as of this stage, I don't think it'll actually cost them a couple positions, because Redfire and Mentoki are closing in onto the back of all these guys, as a matter of fact. They're only 8 seconds behind the leader at this stage. So
Tadpole's burning battery to stay in front. He can't stay in front without burning this battery. You could see now Hunt is closing in, and Hunted actually did not get the DRS there, it looks like.
I think he closed it.
Now
he closed it.
He did. Joe Wilson! The first penalty for him. Bino throwing Kippu, but now JNT Gaming is in second place. Net P2, P5 on track. Red Fire Tiger with another 3 second penalty. That's very costly. That's his second penalty he's picked up in the last few laps. But JNT Gaming, look at that. 3 cars separate him and Tadpole. He needs Hunted to play the team game if it's going to be Tadpole's victory. I would suggest you check Tadpole's warnings.
Well, I just checked JNT's. I checked his warnings. JNT has no track limits. Absolutely none. And I don't think Tadpole has any either. Neither one of them.
Swermed. Wow. I was just going to say, Ardell's been swermed. He's just lost 2 places. He's losing out massively. Remember, he pitted under that VSC.
He's got damage.
And the interesting thing about JNT Gaming, maybe he does. Maybe he does from that contact. I see an end plate missing. You're exactly right. He does have damage. JTK picks up a penalty. More drivers continuing to rack up those penalties. And JNT Gaming, I just want to mention this fun stat about him. No track limit penalty since he's came back to RPL at the end of Season 10 Tier 2. Very impressive. Hunted now, going for the lead and taking it over Tadpole. Can he do wonders for his teammate? We'll find out. But JNT on the inside, late lunge, goes through on Joe Wilson.
That's crucial. That is absolutely crucial, because now he is 2 steps closer to Tadpole, because Hunted overtook, and then he overtakes Joe Wilson. So now he can see Tadpole right in front of him, probably on his dashboard, and he knows there's still a chance to go for this win. He is not out of it just yet. He just needs to clear Bonkers, and then it's a 1v1 against the two.
Ardell obviously down the order because he ended up pitting. That is why he is losing out massively right there in the thick of things. You saw that on the timing order. Red Fire Tiger isn't out of this too, by the way, to at least interfere with this battle on track. He's dragging Mintoki along with him, and keep in mind the penalties in front. You have Bonkers with 9 seconds. Mintoki only has the 5 for speeding in the pit lane. If that was a false penalty, she can get that removed, and if she does, that can win out big for her. But even if it doesn't, though, still very big for this race, having 5 seconds compared to 9 with Bonkers, who's trying to go for the attack on Tadpole, but cannot get it done. This is super big for J&T Gaming right now, having this position here, P4 in this race, and having a chance to at least see Tadpole in front of him. He doesn't really have to worry about anything from his mirrors. I think Ardell helped take care of that with hitting Joe Wilson, but in the meantime, that lunge was really, really good.
Yeah, definitely was. And I think at this stage, we know how the Ferrari tire wear is. I think it may be slowly starting to be a level playing field between Bonkers and J&T technically, because McLaren, they don't exactly have the best. But yeah, J&T, I think that the tires might be slowly starting to go off, but he definitely still has the outright pace in comparison to these guys. And we'll see if he can do anything against that Red Bull as Invade grabs another 3-second time penalty, or actually his first,
no, not
as a matter of fact.
It's his first. I have to give him massive credit here. 28 laps in and fails to get gets his first penalty. Didn't have one prior. In these races, Invade is absolutely awful on track limits, and now Tadpole is being attacked for second place. How long can you protect second place with your teammate leading the race? It's still going to be another lap longer. Tadpole remains in front. Invade deserves a lot of credit, though, with that said. JTK's around, facing the wrong way, and got a damaged front wing. It's not good. That's the second spin this race. But, yeah, with Invade, he's like the chiller but of Tier 2. He deserves a lot of credit. And J&T Gaming going for that move, showing a bolder side of him. He doesn't really go for these moves often, Miniko, because he tries to avoid getting penalty points. One of his only ones coming at the start of the season when he blocks him in qualifying. I think that's really about it for him. He's really kept it clean, though, on track limits and on track with battling.
And that's kind of what you have to expect from from the championship leader. You have to expect just this level of consistency to keep it within the track limits, not really cause any problems. As the yellow flag, once again, JTK having yet another moment. Man. I think he's lost his front wing completely at this point. He has.
Just don't DNF. Don't DNF. Don't cause a safety car, because this race is getting really spicy. I want to see this decided through this battle that we're seeing. 5 cars under a blanket. We're about to make it 7. And here we go. 4 tenths separate the gap from first to second, second to third, third to fourth. And it's like an accordion effect. You can just see J&T Gaming closing up to the back of Bonkers, almost hitting the back of him, and can't get through. Keep in mind, if you don't hit the guy in front, you might get hit from the guy behind. You got Joe Wilson there right on the back of him. Ardell is through for 8th, but he has 12 seconds of penalties. Luckily for Ardell, though, he's on fresher tires.
He's got 15 seconds of penalties. It's gotten even worse. Yeah, but luckily he has a lot of clean air in front of him. In fact, actually, he's got around about 24 seconds off it, so he might be able to pull that gap. And to be fair, we haven't really spoken about him that much, but Bino, he's driving a very good race for what is arguably the worst car on the grid. Dom grabs the fastest lap, interestingly, in the Haas. I don't know what happened to him, actually. He was in 9th.
Yeah, he had some trouble, I think, with whatever it was. Maybe front wing, whatever. Mythic, penalty. Joe Wilson on J&T. Lots of battery in spare. J&T, I saw out of the hairpin, almost hit the outside wall. JTK out in the pit lane. He has scored points in every race this season. That comes to an end. Red Fire with a penalty. And now Joe Wilson trying to get J&T. Trying to reclaim the place. Tadpole through and hunted now for the lead. And this is a big pack of cars here entering turn 1 and 2. Bonkers having to go out wide. Joe Wilson getting through in Bonkers. What?
Where did that come from?
That's what I'm wondering. My goodness. J&T's been overtaken. Red Fire's there for company. But J&T right now, virtual safety car. That's a Haas around.
It looks to be... No, I don't think... No, it doesn't look like Dom went around. I think...
No?
What
Who's
is
missing
that
a front
for?
wing?
I'm having a look around and not seeing anybody. Oh, RPL!
It's Ardell.
Yeah, he has lost a
No front wing.
wing. Yeah.
Yep, you're
It's
right
gone
about
from
that.
bad to worse for the home man.
So, interestingly enough, Hunted switched positions with Tadpole there. Hunted was probably remaining in front to pull Tadpole along there and at least have Tadpole get DRS there. I mean, he saved up a lot more battery, but he's using it under this VSC restart as we go back to Green Flag Racing. But why would that happen with McLaren there? J&T Gaming ducking out. Bunkers looking to be ducking out as well. They're all trying to find the braking zone to pick their point, and now Bonkers picks his point and time that he'll try to get by on Joe Wilson. Inside line, side by side to turn 1. And you got to be careful if you're a car further behind not to ram the back of these guys, but Joe Wilson giving him the squeeze side by side here. This battling will slow down J&T Gaming's progress to catch Tadpole if that's still a race on. But wheel to wheel here at turn 3, the second chicane. Joe Wilson through. Bonkers hindered, and now J&T Gaming are on the outside, becoming the inside for the next corner. Here he goes, lunging it up the inside. Ardell is out now, but they're wheel to wheel still. J&T Gaming around the outside being pinched. Red Fire's there in the background. How about 3 wide for a second? J&T Gaming around the far outside. Will he survive this? He's side by side with Red Fire, pushing along, pushing back and forth. 3 wide.
Wow! Out of nowhere!
Mintoki got the both of them, and J&T Gaming just went from what was trying to be 3rd down to 7th, and now Mintoki's getting pinched. She's one who's trying to continue a point streak as well. She's done great in that Aston Martin. Even though the 5-second penalty is there to spare, she's been battling with Red Fire, and she's going to get the place now.
Yeah, just about. It looks like Red Fire just managed to back out, but what's crucial for them at this stage, J&T is now been completely swarmed, and now he's just stuck behind this pack, and yeah, Hunted now retakes the lead. I think at this stage, McLaren know that for sure they have a double podium for as long as Hunted stays ahead of Joe Wilson. They know what's at stake. At this point, they gotta prioritize Tadpole, because Tadpole is the most likely one to win this race.
Yellow flags, Dom. But Hunted's gap with J&T here as Invade picks up his 2nd penalty. Hunted's gap with J&T here, only 2.6. So J&T taking a podium for sure 3rd, could be a 2nd. Now, Joe Wilson is trying to go for 2nd place. Here he comes on the attack with the overtake button being used. This could be crucial in terms of what McLaren are trying. And around the outside, he couldn't do it. And that's another retirement in the pit lane. We've lost Dom. We've lost Ardell, JTK, and Jack Andrews now. 4 of them. And now, Joe Wilson, side by side to the chicane. Oh, the up and under. No, he couldn't do it. That was so close to contact. We're on the penultimate lap now.
Oh.
Tadpole, his last win comes in this race last season. Now, he's trying to win once again. He's got the win on track, and Red Fire's pitting. Did he get damage? If he did, very crucial to try and take off a fastest lap from somebody, and J&T to egg on with it to get Hunted on penalties. You saw Joe Wilson snap. That will cost him.
Red Fire didn't have damage. I think he just knew he was out of the fight, so he pitted just to steal the fastest lap. Though, well, actually, yeah, that's a good point, actually, because then it's more points for Red Bull. But yeah, I think Red Fire just knew he was out of this fight. But yeah, Joe Wilson, he's now on the attack. He probably has fresher tires than the front two, but McLaren, they're playing this brilliantly. They know what they're doing at this stage. Tadpole for sure has the win. I think what McLaren are trying to do, they think Hunted probably has more pace, trying to get him to pull away from J&T to secure a potential 1-2.
Well, right now, the gap between Hunted and J&T, 2.4. Very crucial if McLaren want to get their first ever 1-2 in Tier 2, I believe. Their last chance at it was last season in Austria. This was Hunted and Beatnik now in Hunted and Tadpole spots. Now, the final lap underway here in Canada. 1 lap remaining. J&T Gaming trying to get Mintoki down the inside. A desperate move. Almost results in contact. J&T Gaming, I think, thinks better of it. But will he remain on the podium here? It looks like he'll remain on the podium with the penalties applied. But it's now a question of will it be P2 or P3. Now Tadpole is trying to defend Joe Wilson on track to not be attacked, and I think Tadpole at least might try to get this win on track.
Yeah, all he has to do is just make sure he doesn't get into any incidents. For all he cares, he can potentially just let Joe Wilson by because he knows that as long as he just keeps it within the track limits for the last stage, he's got this. He has surely got this win.
One of the most unluckiest drivers in RPL Tier 2, a previous champion of the tier. Actually, in fact, his teammate is a champion too. They run 1-2. And now he's trying to claim victory here since the last time he won here. In his last season here, most recently. Now, a battle still brewing. Hunted from the hospital to a win on track. But his teammate, a previous champion, wins in Canada once again. Tadpole back on the top step of the podium after so much bad luck. Since his last win, he wins the Canadian Grand Prix. JNT second once again, a 9th podium, but extends the championship lead massively, and Hunted wins out big as well. 3rd place from the hospital to the podium. I think that's one of my driver of the day contenders. Mintoki also 5th as well in the train. She had penalties. 4th and 5th for the Merc Academy cars. Then you have Bonkers, Red Fire. The battle still continue further on back for the last point spots. Bino in the points on debut here for AlphaTauri. Kippu and Dil JG from a lap 1 spin takes over the last point spot.
Yeah, great recovery drive for Dil JG, but McLaren, they were the only ones in the top 5 to convert their positions into a good position. They both went up 1 spot. That was enough for them to secure a double podium and gain a lot in the Constructors' Championship. And Tadpole, with that, with the team play, absolutely brilliant.
Tadpole takes his 7th Tier 2 win, and the Season 7 champion is back at it on the top step. So much bad luck since that last win in Canada. He's really not been able to put things together. I think only having 1 podium in that Alpine, tons of screen freezes. He almost debated going back to Xbox because of the amount of screen freezes. Well, in McLaren, with his other champion teammate, they get a 1-3. Still no 1-2 for them in Tier 2, but my God, they pulled off an amazing strategy there with the teamwork. And JNT Gaming to get 2nd place over Hunted. I know it wasn't his day, but he put up some amazing battles to get the 2nd place, coming up just short once again.
Yeah, just not quite there. Once again, a pole not converted to a win, but he still did enough to extend. That's exactly what he needed to do. And you know what? You gotta give fair play to some of the other drivers, such as Mintoki and Red Fire, who were way off the back of the pack, yet still managed to close up and put a bit of an impact on these guys. Mintoki as well, despite with that 5-second, still managed to finish into a top 5. The consistency from her, very impressive indeed.
So it's a battle for Mercedes and Ferrari to take the constructors' lead. Either one will take it, depending on what happens afterwards. I think they'll actually be tied, Mercedes and Ferrari. As for Red Bull, who is further on back, they might be overtaken by McLaren. Very interesting there. Only 3 of the top 14 finished the race without penalties. Here are your drivers that we lost from tonight's event. You got Dom, you got Ardell, JTK, and Jack Andrews we lost from the event. You look at our final results here. Kippu in the points for Alpine. Dil JG got 10th. Wavy feels like it's a glitch. He had P10, he feels, so we'll see if that gets reinstated. But JNT Gaming with a 2nd place finish. Maybe not what he wanted in terms of a first race victory, but a 26-point lead over JTK. As for Hunted, he's only back by, 36 points now? But much more closer to JTK. JNT Gaming just can cruise at this point from where we're at right now. He just needs to continue these podium streaks. I mean, JTK had race victories and points in every race up until this point. That changed, but those race victories, even though he had only 2 of them in 2 podiums, JNT having 5 straight podiums now becomes 6. It's really a game changer in terms of those race victories compared to just simple podiums. But right where JNT's at, though, I don't really think that matters as much. Just got to keep the podiums going.
Yeah, his consistency is definitely one to applaud for sure. And I'm just having a look at the Constructors' Championship. McLaren, because of this result, they gain a lot. And not to mention, most of the winners this season have been either Mercedes or Red Bull. They're the first team to win a race that neither one of those two teams. So fair play to McLaren. They finally break that Mercedes and Red Bull streak this season and grab their first win. So fair play to them.
Well, I like the race. I mean, we had a lot of track limit penalties. We had a lot of battles. Canada never seems to disappoint too much, whether it's the drivers having to push the limits or the battles and trying to give room. We definitely saw quite an amazing Grand Prix. Tadpole winning in Canada once again, his second time here. As for the driver of the day contenders, Bino's surely got to be up there. Tadpole's got to be up there. Hunted's got to be up there. Mentoki may be a name as well. I mean, what do you think in terms of who we would give driver of the day to? There's a lot of good contenders from the way this race went.
Tadpole definitely deserves some of it because he played the team game and, well, he used the virtual safety car to his advantage to pull that gap. So you got to give fair play to him and also to not get a track limits warning at a track like this. I mean, that's just impressive in and of itself. We also got to look further down at some of the drivers who may not have gotten enough screen time, but still had a good result. You have to look at Dill JG. He got spun on lap 1, and
Yeah.
whether he gets P10 or not, he still managed to be within a shot in the first place. So that could be very well a good driver of the day, especially for a car that just doesn't seem to work in terms of the race pace. So he's definitely a contender as well.
True. Very true. Yeah, and Wavy and Evade put together some really good races. They may have not finished in the points, or if they did, they got 1 point. They really put together good races this season. Good races in comparison to this season, excuse me. Wavy being right there in the thick of things, battling, especially after last week where he couldn't pass Williams for a good 20 laps. And you had Invade, who took 28 laps to pick up his first track limit penalty. I know he ended up with 6 seconds, but much more improvement from Invade that I'm liking from him. It may have not been the point streak continuing in Canada for him, but it's at least a massive change in terms of the way he's raced this one. Either way, folks, we have tomorrow in Tier 1 in Japan where a championship can be won. All Cookie needs to do is really finish the race and not get beat by Skither. We have Red Bull who can win a 6th straight Constructors Championship as well. And we're past halfway in the Tier 2 season, folks, so make sure you give us a follow as well at RPL Formula 1, and make sure to tune in weekly here for the races, and even tomorrow in Japan. Our next race for Tier 2 will be in Mexico. That will be the end of the U.S. region stretch, and then we'll end up going to the final 4 races for a return in Abu Dhabi and China, Bahrain, and our final race in Japan. We have a thriller with the amount of tracks ending off this season. This should be tons of fun. From RPL Streams, Ryan Searles, Minico, both of us signing off, and have a good one, and make sure you tune in to the next events, whether it's Tier 2 in Mexico next week or F1 in Japan tomorrow. Good night.